Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and tonight we're going to be doing a kind of a riff of creating our own story base for either a beloved franchise sequel or a soft reboot, kind of thing. So this will be me and Patrick essentially riffing and showing some of our creative knowledge of how to how to get a story and a script kind of put together.
And that's the great thing about being on your own little internet show, folks. We get to say that we're good at this. You get to decide. You can tell us in the comments down below, but we've already decided we're good at this. And you know what, Paul? You've already said soft reboot. And I'm like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun because the idea of us essentially farting around, coming up with how to do one of these well, it gets me in the tickles because I'm going to go weird on you at some point. And you're probably going to be looking at the camera, i.e., the audience, going, "This is what I deal with."
Well, this is the thing because we've had conversations about doing kind of or rewriting or script doctoring some of the show,
Yeah,
some of the movies that we've seen before in the past, kind of thing, of either being soft reboots or beloved books and stuff like that have not
yeah.
gone as right. So this is our chance to kind of going. Here's a generic one. Hollywood, if you want to take it, you gotta, you gotta hear us out. It's gotta be involved in the show, in the movie somehow. You know,
I want a little bit of a slice of the cheese there, folks. A little
uh,
slice of the cheese.
yeah, or creative control of whatever you're doing. For the next 10 years.
That sounds wonderfully artistic, and now I sound like a mercenary money grabber. But I would like to say, even with creative control, still want to slice that
Oh yeah, yeah,
cheese.
no, no. Because if you take creative control for the next 10 years, there's a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows that you can get
Well,
paid to
that's
do.
true. That's true. Cool.
Which could,
Let's rock and roll then. Let's have some fun.
yeah. So the idea is that we're going to break this into each of the acts, and then we're going to talk about that. So we're going to start with the act one kind of thing. So yeah, where would you like to start, and kind of like, what's the first part? Are we going to start?
Well, obviously, if you're reboot or not,
Mhm.
or sequel or not, you want to set your world early on. And I said this in the previous video. It's when you have the audience at their most open. They're most willing to accept things. So anything that's going to be out of the ordinary or extraordinary, now's your time to do it. So let's say we're doing a. So are we doing? Will we do like a sequel to a beloved?
Yeah. So
Just for this case of this example, so
yeah.
sequel to a beloved, like 80s movie, like Goonies. You want to set the world that you're going to be in. So anybody who remembers the Goonies, bunch of kids in a place. I can't remember what it's called, Ann Arbor or something. I can't remember what it was called, but in that lovely little seaside town.
Yeah.
For me, you want to set it up nice and straight away that you can have nostalgia on tap, and it won't grate with people. You don't want to be injecting it later on. Get it out there nice and early, set your world and go, we're going back to the town where they're from. They're not all still there. Maybe some of them will come back as part of your story. We'll work that out as we go along. But that idea that you can have a basis to go, folks, a little tip of the hat, we're back where and there's where the ship came out of the cave, or this is the house that they all met up in. And that'll make any nostalgic move you pull after that feel just that much more natural.
Yeah, it's the familiarity kind of thing of a past thing that you're trying to build there. Yeah, that's good because yeah, that's the thing that they do really well. Because in
Mm-hmm.
it part two, they do that kind of element to it. They show you a part of the town, and then they kind of go and follow the characters from it part one kind of thing.
Yeah.
They show that now it is already not a nostalgia buzz or anything like that, but to show your example of kind of like yeah, follow the people where they are kind of thing, and then bring it back to familiarity ville and kind of build that way. Yeah, because like there's the other things where it's like you can so you can show them places so like Twin Pines for Back to the Future. You
Yeah.
show that again kind of thing. You show like the Doc's laboratory or that the cinema with the cowboys and Indians kind of thing.
Yes.
Little,
Yeah.
little elements to kind of tickle the nerves and or tickle the kind of memory of what you've seen before. And so it's yeah, because it's also important in the first act to kind of front load your nostalgia. This is where you kind of want to go. tip of the hat Easter egg parts and kind of things, and then slowly bring in that new storyline that we've talked about in our past one, recapturing the magic video that we've talked about, the
Yeah,
dues kind of thing. You want to kind of make the story your own, but follow maybe a familiar kind of uh, story path. You know?
exactly. And if you're doing particularly after a long period of time, so let's say you're doing a follow up to Top Gun, which is coming out, you've got to acknowledge that time has passed. So you're either telling a story that's completely unrelated, except for maybe a central character or some thematic thing like a character or a family or something like that, or you're going to set it in a similar world. So in the case of Top Gun, it's the Air Force. In the case of the Goonies, it's going to be around these characters, maybe that place. Because the other option, well, and because I used the Goonies a moment ago, is that you can actually, instead of going back to that place, you can go to one of those characters or two of those characters where they are right now and say, this is the world we're living in. And if you're going to be making it as a follow on, it might be about their situation now and the effect of what they did when they were younger has on them, or maybe a new adventure they're going to go on. But you do want to set that up nice and early because it gives you such a basis to not feel like you're just hat tipping, nostalgia, money grabbing for the whole rest of the movie. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about trying to do this to a Back to the Future because it already had sequels. That would be an interesting one. Yeesh.
Yeah, it would be difficult in the sense of doing it to what we would consider an already complete franchise kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then again, Star Wars kind of, I guess, it had tried to do it twice, and
Good point, actually. Good
like,
point. With
um,
varying degrees of success, I might add.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, just thinking about that, even yeah, changing location, so you can still have that nostalgia budget of showing location things of like famously the photo frame stuff. Like the picture of the old house from the old town, maybe
Yeah.
the gang together in the treasure, and then like graduation, kind of thing. Like that's a good tip of the hat of knowing that the entire past element is like show it through the photos, through their life kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
because and also because Bill and Ted they do a classic voiceover thing. They do a classic voiceover, get you all kind of sped up kind of thing, and so you accept kind of, oh yeah, time has passed, they've tried. Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
And it gives you a chance to set, as well as setting the scene, because you're also setting which characters you're going to be bringing back and also possibly hinting at what your first big plot point will be and maybe what one of your underlying story arcs might be even that early on. So with like Bill and Ted's good example, or again to do it one that with one that hasn't been done. One of our videos that actually took off. There's a lot of people out there that really love the Last Starfighter, and we did a video about it because we love it too.
yeah,
If I was to go back and say doing a follow on to the Last Starfighter now, it would be a great challenge. But you would have so many brilliant options to do. Like you say, you could even just drive past the trailer park and have it be mothballed,
yeah,
and have that as an opening shot and have, the car that you're watching in that shot move into a city and go, that was the last film. This is where this is going to happen. This is now a Silicon Valley guy who's, going to end up becoming the last starfighter from behind an office desk rather than behind a joystick in the one stand-up arcade cabinet that they had
yeah.
rather incongruously in a trailer park.
Well, like, genius move as well. You
Yeah.
captured audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because with these kind of elements, you're respecting what's came before in the past, and then showing that element of respect as you go into your next kind of. So we've introduced characters, we've introduced nostalgia, kind of Easter egg parts and everything. So it's kind of like now, and we've not set up fully what our plot is going to be, but as the nostalgia and kind of setting places and everything like that, you're kind of getting the hint of what our plot's going to be, kind of thing. And he wants it to be slightly to the left or right of what has come before. But still slightly overlapping.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So you want familiar starts. So like for the Goonies, it's the criminals or something like that, or you can have treasure that's missing, something like that. So you know that it's slightly okay. We're going to go on a treasure, or we're going to have to deal with criminal things again. In Last Starfighter, you can literally have, as you like for your example, as you drive by the trailer park, you could have that little shop place, the reception area, like yeah, closed down with the Last Starfighter arcade machine there, and as the car
Yeah,
drives by, you could have it turn on.
flicker.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would definitely go for a little flicker and make it as imperceptible that people will afterwards ask each other, did you see it? Because I love little touches like that where they don't make it super obvious and make you think, I think I did. Oh, did they? Ooh, nice.
yeah, because like as much as you know that you're going in to watch the Last Starfighter again, you want the film hints. You know, that's the
Yeah.
kind of elements to it. You want those kind of you know dire
Well,
nodbacks.
exactly. And like at this point, we've got whatever we're constructing together, as far as let's say the follow on. Um, we're then going to have to set up our first big plot point. And at that point, you can choose for my take. And this is something that we've talked about before. There is a choice here that you can go. A lot of people say, well, don't just remake the original. There are exceptions to that rule. And you pointed out that episode 7,
Yeah,
Star Wars, no, yeah, 7, um, really is it's a remake of Star Wars. It's a New Hope done again, but with enough differences, like you were saying.
yeah,
Or if you're going to make your plot point that no, it's a different type of challenge this time. So let's say last time it was, Last Starfighter being picked. They were being picked from all over the place to go off and Death Blossom and kill and save the world and all the other ridiculousness. Seriously, folks, watch that video. It's great. Um, but you could also go, actually, no, after all of that happened, we've now got this other challenge. It's not we're trying to defend anymore. It could be that that universe exists, but there's a completely different challenge. Not a single aggressor, not a single, warring faction that we're trying to protect ourselves from, but the universe is in a different type of peril. So they're using the same mechanism of the Last Starfighter of we're collecting people from all over the place, but they don't necessarily, as part of the plot, have to be fighting a similar villain.
yeah. Like you alter the differences, kind of thing. Yeah, you can definitely have like you. So for Star Wars Force Awakens, like it's a new empire that isn't very much established. It is an aggressive force coming in rather than an established aggressor kind of thing. That's a really nice piece there. So like it's not the Galactic Empire, it's an invading force kind of into the current regime of the New Republic, which is so like it alters it a little bit, gives it a little bit more kind of freedom to play around and stuff like that. But you still got that core plot going on there of your adventurers, unknown figures, your Darth Vader esque character kind of thing. And then with the Goonies, yeah, you do the same thing. You can just have it. It's still you still need to make it an adventure, but you want to make it an adventure of a different kind. It could be the fact that the kids of the original group get it themselves in trouble, and then the Goonie group have to go and rescue them in some way, using their Goonie ness.
Gooniness, trademark, here's out.
Mm-hmm. So, and then we move on to with that kind of established, we move on to Act Two, and Act Two is where we hard case the story in the hero's journey. It's where we kind of like throw the near the end we throw the rocks at the hero kind of thing, and we bring them down low. In our kind of thing, this is where the balance starts to tip away from the nostalgia for me anyway, away from the
Yeah,
nostalgia and into kind of like where we're going into the future. So you want
it
to
really is telling the story that you now want to tell. You've done all you need to do to set yourself up for whatever your new story is. It can be completely divergent from anything that's come before.
yeah, so like yeah, you want to do so let's say if you were doing like if you're doing percentages in the acts, 70% of kind of what you want to do with nostalgia and stuff like that in the first act kind of there so you kind of give everybody the familiarity. In the next second act, you want to drop that to probably about I don't want to like 50 to like 35% nostalgia, like bring a kind of string through it a little bit of kind of nods and like for our Last Starfighter element, you could have like the starfighter, the actual like ship, like in a hangar, with a dust
Yeah,
cover on it or something. that, and they kind of everybody gives
Exactly.
it a good nod, kind of. But they move on to kind of the new ship that we're going to be following, or the new kind of in what you could say, the Goonie elements, kind of the new, I guess, one-eyed Willie character, or
Yes, whatever it might be. Now, let's say it is the Goonies, and you're going to take it a completely different direction. So we've actually set it up that you're not going back to the town. You're meeting the two brothers that were played by Sean Austin and Thanos, whose name is escaping me right now.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, thank you very much. You're actually going to see them as maybe, you might actually go the hard route. It's been long enough that you could have Sean Austin's character, who was the youngest of the crew, I think, at his brother's funeral, and say, right, this is the world we're setting up. So the Goonies went on and lived lives and became adults. And then a popular Hollywood move is to have their children become the new adventurers. I think I'm going to be more wacky and risky and say that on his, as part of his will, Josh Brolin wants his younger brother to regroup and regain the camaraderie he had when they were happiest, when they were younger, with all his friends. So as part of the will, he's like, my last wishes are that you'll get back together with Chunk and Data and all these people, that you'll go on one last adventure, and I have created this thing for you. And that is actually maybe your plot point to end Act 1. And then it's Act 2 is your challenge of him going and convincing these people to come together, convincing them this is real. And then, like you say, you either have your false victory, or your hero gets their ass handed to them as an actual failure in the midpoint of the movie. And I think that is where, like, they're the ones that really draw me in, because at that point you're telling your own story, but you've brought characters that will bring nostalgia naturally with them. So is Data still Gadget Kid? Maybe he is, but now maybe it's just his iPhone. He's like, I don't bother building things anymore. I've got Arduino or Raspberry Pi all over the place, and I'm now just Wi-Fi in my house to be cool.
Yeah.
Have fun with it,
Yeah, because like that's the way you kind of do it. You kind of you naturally bring in the nostalgia rod that kind of like you don't scatter shot it. You now kind of gracefully, respectfully put it in as plot point elements, rather than you can do still the kind of background nods to something as well. Like you could do, like, they go to Data's house and they, like, his whole like harness invention belt thing is like hanging up on the wall, or on a, like, mannequin thing, like nice little like visual kind of nostalgia things.
Yeah.
So like for the which goes Force Awakens, we got, like, the Star Destroyer that's been taken down kind of thing in the background, and that kind of element of background elements, which is no one kind of comments on them, but they're there to kind of give you still that nostalgia buzz. Yeah, as you said, start balancing and going to the story you tell, because we've said it before. You need to make this your own story, a story that stands up on its own without too much of the props of the old ones, kind of thing. Like, can't just heavily rely on what's come in the past. So
you need to be able to watch Terminator 2. And that's the key. Like, I always refer to that as, you can watch Terminator 2, even though it has a 2 in the title. You can watch it having never seen the first movie. It's better for me if you have, but if you haven't, you're still going to enjoy the heck out of it, and it's not going to lose you completely. Same thing with Aliens, or as people call it, Alien 2. But Aliens, the follow-up to Alien, you can watch it without having ever seen the first movie. If you can't do that, then you've leaned too hard on the previous work.
Yeah. The references should be just references. They shouldn't be structure. Yes, would be
exactly.
I think
That's a good way of putting it.
And you got to bring into kind of a new, like, if you're doing this in kind of past work, can't follow the same, I guess, downward spiral of the hero. You can't do the same one. So, like, with the Starfighter one, they're alone, kind of thing. They're on their own, so you can't really make them on their own. So make the downfall something else. Like, the classics are always kind of like, that a secret is revealed, like maybe he cheated on the game or something like that, rather than that kind of make the downfall a
I
little bit
love
different.
it. I love it. There you go. That's this the second act. There's your plot point for the big mid. You have your new starfighter having turned out to have used a cheat code, and then there they are, supposed to be part of saving the universe or whatever it might be. That's a great little reveal twist and undermining move. I love that. Oh, can we make that one?
If
Hollywood,
we've already
you're listening.
recorded this, so like, or like we've already showed this, so like if they in any way take any of it, and we're here first. Um,
Mm.
but
Legally binding YouTube stuff.
but yeah, that kind of element. So the Goonies can be like, yeah, so where they're all kind of like, they all get down in their own confidence about what they can do. They're all children, kind of course. It could always be that, the fact that they lost touch with each other could be the downfall of all of them. The fact is that they don't work in one unit anymore, or know the strengths of each other anymore. So
Yeah.
that's an element there, or like, yeah, so I'm not going to go too much into ones that may have
No.
because I really want to go into the Ghostbuster kind of one, because it is such a good
Ooh.
Ghostbusters Afterlife kind of one, but it's such a good sequel thing. But I also don't want to.
I believe it's a great example of how to do a lot of this stuff. Now, it's not following all of the kind of rules or the advice that we're giving. It follows a lot of it, but it does some of its own things. But again, that's due to the size of Ghostbusters. Let's say it's like doing something for Back to the Future. So they had to give themselves extra bits of distance and extra bits of closeness, but I think they timed it really well. So, like you said a moment ago, with for Last Starfighter, you have the ship, but it's covered, and you're moving on. So there it is. Or how they did it really well in Battlestar Galactica when they soft rebooted, and they actually made the old ships part of the story to be in, to be there. It was a museum, so it makes a lot of sense. Like it just chef's kiss, perfect. Similar with, if you're going to go, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, if you're going to go down the route that there's a relative of a Ghostbuster who is now in another place away from New York, which I still think is genius. And I love, that's the perfect example of show that you're somewhere else. Set it up nice and early, set up why you're there. And they did that perfectly. But when they show Ecto 1 kind of in the shed, I'm like, nice. You've now not just made it a nostalgia like tip of the hat. They were like, we're now, this is Chekhov's gun. This is going to be used at some point, and it's used really, really well. So there's an anticipation there. It's coming back, and it's a beloved character in its own way. So like pitch perfect for me, but I'm way too biased. In fact, I shouldn't be allowed to speak about it ever again. I should leave it to you.
No, like I agree, because you can bring in back elements, because like for the Goonies you can bring back the ship, you can bring back which was One Eye Willie's ship, it becoming a very staple part of it, kind of thing once again, but have it in a different way, that it's not the goal, it's a vehicle to get there, because it's its own, as you said, it's its own character by then. The last Starfighter, the fighter is its own character. The DeLorean itself, you can move on from the DeLorean and Back to the Future, move on to the train, kind of thing. Bring it back as its own character, and then make a nod to the DeLorean in some fact. But don't, like the license plates or something.
Yeah, or the fact that they kind of have almost got sort of gull wing doors on a train. So yeah, it's the nods can be buried in plain sight and still work. So Paul, if we're talking about doing this as again, I'm very conscious that we've got Top Gun 2 coming up. If you're doing it after a long time, and you are doing it with characters, let's say, that have aged, or you're doing it with a new generation, so you're showing time has passed, which I usually think is very important, unless you're trying to pick up right where something left off. If your story allows that, then fine. But I think you almost have to approach it differently. If you're ending a story and then 20 years later picking up 2 minutes after that first story ended, I think you have to approach it slightly differently, because then you have to make it a direct extension. And it usually means that you can't undermine completely the ending of the the first installment, or else you're gonna invalidate everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. You can't front load this with nostalgia if it's essentially a 5 minutes after the original ending kind of thing. So like if it was a time travel thing where they're just like, great, we've won, and then suddenly in the next movie that you know the phone booth comes down and they're just like, you haven't fixed everything, we gotta go. You can't front load anymore with nostalgia and stuff like that. You got to do a thicker thread all the way through, kind of thing. And as you said, you'll have to downplay the distance and time kind of thing, because like it's not part of it anymore. You know,
Yeah,
like there are bad examples of front loading nostalgia, which I know we're going back to Act One, but there's one really
please.
bad one, which is the Matrix Resurrection. It's the elephant in the room about nostalgia.
Oh yeah, no, I'm letting you do this one though, because it still makes me a little bit sad when I think about it.
This is how you do when we're talking about it, you do respectful things, nods and stuff like that. You don't steal, is how I describe it. You want to do nods in shows and respectfulness. What Matrix Resolution does, or Matrix Resurrection does, it essentially steals from the original, from the first Matrix, and puts it right there on screen right at the start, and it's too much kind of thing, because it ruins in a way
Agreed.
it ruins in the way the kind of forward going on then, because it sets, as we said, it sets the tone of, yeah, we're gonna heavily rely on past films. Like there's going to be a speckling of originality in here, but it's mostly going to be, you're going to see this before kind of stuff, and it sets a tone, because like,
Yeah, I just got to say though, just at that point, because you've hit the key thing, that they've telegraphed to you, you're not going to see a huge amount of originality here in and of itself. It's all going to be adaptation of what came before, and nice, look at how clever we are at twisting this. But because they used kind of the meta idea so heavily in anything that was purely original, it was only ever purely original in a kind of a mockingly meta way, and that stung for me. It's what put me off the movie most, I think.
well, this is the thing, because then when you get to Act 3 with that start, like an Act 3 in our generic kind of script, or a generic kind of storyline, is where you pick up the torch and you make the entire thing your own, and you bring it into a possible next sequel to this movie kind of thing. This is where your first act is really important, kind of thing, because if you front load it and set the mood of kind of like, yeah, our originality is very, very, like, small, and like, not small, but very, like, our originality thin, yes, kind of thing. It means that our originality and our story for our ending and everything is going to be completely propped up by what's come before. Whereas, as you said, like, if you couldn't watch Matrix Resurrection without watching even the first.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
Like, but with our idea of watching the Goonies for the first time, or watching the Goonies 2, or our other, like, Starfighter 2 kind of elements, they hit you enough with nostalgia stuff that if you haven't watched the Starfighter, you're just gonna go, like, I know that ship is important in the background, but like, I don't need, it's a nod kind of thing. It's,
you can move right on.
Yeah, like the Ecto 1, although it's a very pop culture-esque thing, and I don't know who couldn't have seen it by now, but like, you could just be like, okay, I saw it in the advertisements that happened for the Ghostbusters, like, kind of thing, so I know it's a Ghostbusters vehicle. Okay, cool.
And it serves a purpose as a natural part of the natural story. So it's there for good natural story purposes, and then it's used by extension for good natural story purposes, which makes it never out of place. And I think maybe that's the key thing with, like, the Matrix. Everything felt out of place because everything was being so forced to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
the French dude. What the hell was he called? He was
Yeah,
called
the
the
savant
traitor. Yeah. And you know, there's that kind of weird warehouse fight scene where all of a sudden it's like, oh, also we haven't forgotten the other two sequels, and we're gonna shove in this right now. And then even while doing that, mockingly referencing meta ideas of, you know, Smith changing and all those sorts of things, but with a real, what I thought they thought was a knowing wink or nod of look how clever we are, but it felt more like a finger in the eye, or while there was a tongue in cheek kind of going. Yeah, there's a huge difference because it didn't sit naturally. Any of it, there was no natural story.
Yeah,
It was all contrived story
it
the whole
was
way.
the exposition of the reason that they were there was 5 seconds, and it really doesn't hold up water, kind of thing, of why they're there.
No.
Like you could do like, you know, the kids of the criminals from the, you could do the criminals from the kids of from the first Goonies. You could set them up, kind of thing, and you can just have their second names as explanations that these guys are out for revenge.
They were the Fratellis.
Yeah,
The Fratellis was the family name. Yeah.
yeah, you can literally just, like, you know, Bob Fratelli, and it's just like, why is he the bad guy? Oh, because his family was put away by these guys, so it makes sense, kind of thing. We make the link, kind of thing.
And you can show it very, very quickly and move the hell on.
Yeah, but it's not rammed in there. It's going to become its own story plot as the story goes on, kind of thing. Whereas, for example, that warehouse scene, it goes out the window and everybody forgets that they exist. They never come back. And so, like, when you get to, so the point we're kind of getting here is when you get to the Act 3 point, you want the structure to be like built. If we're using an analogy of buildings, kind of thing, you want the foundation to be semi of the nostalgia kind of stuff, but then also the structure and also, like, a large portion of the new foundation to be new elements that you've brought in as the film has gone on. So you want to pass the torch as it is, kind of thing. And now you can do this too well as well. I will point out that you can do this too well, which also breaks it. So, like, as we said with The Matrix, they really shove it in your face. With Force Awakens, they do it so well that when you leave the cinema, that's when you go, was that a remake of, you know?
Did I just watch a Death Star again?
Yeah, kind of thing. So you want, if I was going to choose one, I will choose the Star Wars one, but you want to take it as an like an element of your own, kind of thing, and show that you're going to go forward with it, by bringing in new stuff, bringing in kind of elements of it, that stand up on its own. This is where you're working towards things. So that if you want to continue on the franchise, you can do it without having to reference anything again, or lightly reference. Just lightly reference again, like as in your Act 1 of movie 3, the nostalgia is even lower because you can just point out maybe things in the background this time rather than, you know what I mean.
But I know exactly what you mean, and that's the key thing here, folks. For anybody who's watching this, because I'm just having fun talking about good friend Paul right now. I forgot about all of you for a moment there. The key thing for me, that your third act in the traditional 3-act structure is going to be it's going to be your shortest, more than likely, or second shortest, depending on your first. But you're doing your conclusion. This is where it happens. Whatever your final plot item really is, it's all going to happen here. And after that, you have the closer. So if whatever story we construct, let's say we're doing the Goonies or whatever it might be, do you want to follow up for, I don't know, Shawshank Redemption, whatever it might be. Whatever you've set up by now, as you said with your analogy of, your foundation can get that out there, set the world, bring the nostalgia with you, or bring the references that you're going to need so that they're there and they can be wound into the building as it grows up. When you're building that final part, you've got to do it only based on what's below it. You're not going back and building out of the bottom again. I'm not going to stop making weird hand gestures. So you're sitting on top. So you have to then follow the fact that you've set up whatever your new story is. That's the story you're concluding. If you're doing a trilogy, it's a different story. If you're trying to wrap everything up, this is just where you have to finish the movie you're making. And once you've done that, you do have an opportunity in that final, the final few scenes, or whatever way you want to look at it. You have an opportunity to go full on reconnect again if you want. But at that stage, you've built your building, you've completed the whole thing, then it's all cherry on the top. So if you complete that story, in the case of time travel, you can have it ending with everybody going back to the very first movie and meeting each other, whatever it might be. You can do that, but not at any midpoint in that conclusion act.
Yeah.
You can't do it at any. You can't go, oh, you know what would be great right now. Right now, if we jumped a la Matrix and we really try and mangle the past into our own present, you're gonna mess it up. And that's getting greedy and lazy all at the same time.
Yeah, like I get, yeah. Be respectful of your new characters and the past characters that you've currently put into the situation that you had, or that you've built here, and let them finish their story,
Exactly.
and then bring in maybe a little bit of like, not a little bit, but you can hit the nail, like, at the end of it with a big nostalgia flush kind of thing, which like, so even if they weren't there, you would find a way that the new characters and stuff like that could complete the story kind of thing. But you want to bring it back into the franchise instead, reconnect it.
And I mentally just came up with a very quick shorthand because we talked about the Goonies. Let's say you went with that storyline of Josh Brolin set the task for Sean Astin to get everybody together for a mission, a reason, and whatever it is. That all happens away from their original town. Whatever their difficulty is, maybe they face the Fratellis, maybe they don't face any criminal family at all, but whatever you've set up as the new story, you complete that. But once you have, feel free to have everybody go back to the bay and sit on the beach and say, this is where we saved this town originally. You can completely literally go back to the last scene of the first movie as grown-ups then, because you've completed the story you were telling tonight in this, in that movie you've just watched. Once you've concluded your story, your little addendum, your little add-ons towards the end, they're not going to ruin anything. But if you get greedy and go, we've almost finished, I don't know how to do this, do you think we can maybe move the final fight to the beach so that we can end the film there? Then you're matrixing the shit out of it.
Yeah, like if it's in any way kind of squeezed in or shoved in there kind of thing, and it doesn't make any story element point, then yeah, it's gonna break the wall. It's gonna break what you've made before, kind of. So that's why you want to.
It's gonna show you're an idiot. sorry to be so frank, but yeah, people who do that with great properties, because there are a lot of examples. We haven't called them all out because that's just kind of mean.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of bad follow-ups. Could have been good follow-ups. And that's why I hate people go, oh, sequels are always shit. It makes me feel terrible inside. Because quite often they really are, but they didn't have to be.
No, and this is what this is for. We're kind of trying to help a guide, or as fans,
we're trying to exercise our demons.
Yeah, kind of thing of kind of going, yeah, to us as fans of these franchises and stuff like that, and these pop culture moments and stuff, that you can definitely be respectful. You can definitely do these kind of things again without. We understand that they're for money. We understand that. Like, there's no idea that we have in the back of our head that are just like, this is some fan made love of the movie. We're definitely gone.
Yeah.
This is some executive who goes, yeah, so I was watching the Goonies last
Slice
week,
the cheese.
and I think we can make a second Goonies film, lads. And make some movie like money out of that. So there's no fan who's just like, I've been dying to make this movie. Kind of thing. And then there's some
unless you're Steven Spielberg
himself,
who can self-finance this and has all the juice. There are maybe 4 people on the planet that could quite literally say, I want to do this my way, and not have any interference. And most of them would still have to self-finance.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like that's the link kind of thing there of like, yeah, it's just so we understand why it's happening. It's just there's definitely better ways of doing it,
Yeah,
kind of thing. So, so I hope you've liked our story of our kind of generic storyline element of how to make a soft reboot or a sequel to a beloved franchise. Things we wanted to break it up into the acts. And if you want to make any of the movies that we've suggested, come talk to us. We've got a lot more ideas. Probably think we're probably hiding a lot of the
I have a pen and I'm ready to sign. Just tell me how much cheese and how much creative control we'll have. Paul, I for the people watching, thank you very much for your time. Number one, people say YouTube is free. I don't think it's free. You've paid us with your time, your attention, and we love you for it. That's payment enough. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Whatever about that. But what we've just talked about, you're going to have some feelings on this too. You're going to have disagreed with some of our points. You're going to have agreed. You're going to have thought of things that we wish we'd thought of. And we're going to think of things in about 20 minutes and go, oh, damn it, we want to add that back in. So get in there. Like I say this about so many of our videos, we love the interaction. Love your comments. Love hearing what you think and love interacting with what you think. But on something like this, if this is your jam, let us know. Get in the comments. We'd love to do more of this sort of stuff, even if only 10 people are interested. Because 10 people who really love something is better than 100,000 who couldn't really care. So let us know what you think. Comments down below. Give us your thoughts on what we got right, what we got wrong. And maybe, Paul, I would love somebody to give us a specific film. Like, pick a film that has never had a sequel. And we may do this for real, where we actually take some time away, write our story, and then kind of present it to you all, maybe in a live stream, and see if we can get some live feedback.
Yeah, or if there is a film that has a sequel that's been done really bad, and you want us to script doctor it, let us know the film and stuff like that, and we can do a script doctor episode on it and see how we could fix it, or we believe we could fix it, and we can have a discussion about that as well. That would be pretty cool, actually. I can think of some already. Cool.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's a list I think we could come up with all by ourselves too much, but I would love somebody else to pick from that list for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it won't feel quite so mean.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, as Patrick said, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, message us on all the socials and everything of your ideas, comment down below, which just share us out. Please share us out. That's one thing that does help us as well. So, but thank you very much. Which goes for listening. I've been Paul.
I've been Patrick.
I was about to say I'm Patrick. Don't know why.
We've done that before.
We've
done that before. Because I always have to think, which one am I?
I think it's, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I've been Paul.
I knew who we have been, though. Who have we been, Paul?
We've been Hear Us Out.
Damn right. We'll see you all soon. Bye.